The quantum field sensors aboard the collective survey vessel Eternal Seeker detected the anomaly long before its crew could comprehend its significance. At first, Chief Observer Nix 427 dismissed the readings as another routine space phenomenon, perhaps a dying star or an unexpected gravitational wave. But as the data streams coalesced into recognizable patterns, their crystalline neural pathways froze in shock. Radio waves, television broadcasts, digital signals, a chaotic symphony of electromagnetic radiation emanating from a seemingly unremarkable solar system in the Orion Arm. Most of it was garbled noise, but some messages were clear enough. Mathematics, music, and fragments of 1,000 different languages, all originating from a single world. Impossible. Nix 427 whispered through their resonance chamber, their crystalline form vibrating with disbelief. The last survey of this sector was less than 300 cycles ago. There was nothing but primitive tool users then. The ship's AI confirmed what Nix 427 already knew. They had just discovered a civilization that had progressed from industrial revolution to spacefaring capability in less than 3 centuries. It was unprecedented in the million-year history of the collective. Within moments, the Eternal Seeker's quantum communicator was transmitting an emergency signal to the collective's High Council. The response was immediate. Maintain observation, gather data, but under no circumstances make contact. But it was already too late. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the viewport of the ESS Prometheus, Earth's first faster-than-light capable vessel, watching as the strange crystalline ship attempted to retreat into the darkness of space. After 6 months of pushing the boundaries of human exploration, they'd finally found what everyone hoped and feared existed: alien life. "They're running," Lieutenant Rodriguez observed from his tactical station. "Should we pursue?" Chen didn't answer immediately. The alien vessel had been observing Earth for weeks before the Prometheus detected them. They clearly had superior technology, yet they chose to flee rather than engage. That told her 2 things. They weren't looking for a fight, and they were afraid. "Match their course and speed," she finally ordered. "But maintain distance. Let's show them we can follow, but don't make it look aggressive." The alien ship's reaction was immediate and unexpected. It stopped completely, hanging motionless against the starfield. Then, to everyone's surprise, it began broadcasting on all frequencies. The message was simple: mathematical sequences, atomic structures, basic geometric patterns, universal concepts that transcended language, a first contact protocol. "They're inviting us to talk," Chen smiled. "Rodriguez, prepare the response package. Let's introduce ourselves properly." None of them could have known that this moment would change the galaxy forever. The emergency session of the collective's High Council was chaos. Representatives from 10,000 species argued across the quantum-linked chamber, their various forms of communication creating a cacophony that threatened to overload the universal translators. "They must be contained," Supreme Architect Vex 000 declared, their crystalline form pulsing with alarm. "The data from the Eternal Seeker confirms our worst fears. These humans are advancing at an exponential rate. Their adaptability and innovation exceed anything in our records." Containment. Elder Zix of the gaseous consciousness scoffed, their cloud form swirling with amusement. Based on what justification? They've shown no aggression. Their first response to contact was diplomacy. "It's not their aggression that concerns me," Vex 000 countered. "It's their potential. Look at their history. In the span of 3 centuries, they'd gone from burning hydrocarbons to manipulating quantum fields. They solve problems in ways we never conceived. They adapt our technology faster than we can develop it. They're not just intelligent, they're dangerous." The chamber erupted again as factions formed and dissolved. Some advocated for immediate quarantine, others for full diplomatic relations. A few extremists even suggested more permanent solutions, though these were quickly dismissed. In the end, they chose the middle path. limited contact, carefully controlled technology exchange, and subtle containment. They would guide humanity's development along safe, predictable lines. It was, many would later agree, their first major mistake. Dr. Emily Watson stared at the alien technical documentation with growing excitement. The collective had provided Earth with what they claimed was basic technology: clean energy generation, improved medical techniques, more efficient space travel. But Watson, like many human scientists, saw something else in these gifts: possibilities. They think linearly, she explained to her colleague, Dr. James Chen, no relation to the famous captain. Look at their power generation systems. They developed one technology, perfected it over thousands of years, then moved to the next. But if we combine these principles in new ways, we could leapfrog their development path entirely. James finished her thought. They're giving us building blocks, but they never imagined we'd rearrange them. Within months, human scientists worldwide were doing exactly that. Collective technology was being adapted, combined, and repurposed in ways their original creators never intended. Clean fusion became miniaturized power cells. Medical nanites were reprogrammed for manufacturing. Faster-than-light theories were pushed beyond their supposed limits. The collective noticed, of course. Their observers watched with growing alarm as humans took their carefully regulated technology and transformed it into something new, something unpredictable. But by then, it was too late to stop the cascade of innovations. On the distant world of Nexus Prime, home to the collective's central administration, High Observer Keck 721 prepared their final report with a sense of dread. The humans had exceeded every projection, broken every model, and defied every assumption. They don't think like us, Keck 721 wrote. When faced with obstacles, they don't seek the obvious solution. They create new ones. When our containment protocols block one path, they find 3 others. They share information at a rate we cannot control, adapt to new situations faster than we can respond, and view our restrictions not as limitations, but as challenges to overcome. The report concluded with a warning that would be ignored until it was too late. The humans are not merely another species to be guided and contained. They are a force of nature, a catalyst for change. In our attempt to control them, we have given them the tools to surpass us. The question is no longer whether they will reshape the galaxy, but how much of our existing order will survive their ascension. The report was filed, reviewed, and archived. The collective's leadership, confident in their million-year-old systems and protocols, believed they could manage the human situation. After all, what could one young species do against the combined might of 10,000 civilizations? They would soon find out. Back on Earth, Captain Chen stood once again at the viewport of the Prometheus, but this time she wasn't alone. Representatives from every major nation on Earth had gathered to witness humanity's next great leap. The ship had been upgraded with a combination of collective technology and human innovation. Its quantum drive now operated at efficiencies that the aliens had declared theoretically impossible. Its sensors could detect patterns that collective science hadn't fought to look for. And its defensive systems, well, Chen hoped they wouldn't need those. The collective believes they're guiding us. She addressed the assembled dignitaries. They think they're controlling our development, keeping us safe and predictable. But they've never encountered a species like us before. They don't understand that every boundary they set is just another puzzle for us to solve. She gestured to the starfield beyond the viewport. They've given us the keys to the galaxy, thinking we'd follow their prescribed paths. Instead, we're going to forge our own. The Prometheus powered up its enhanced drives, preparing to venture beyond the subtle boundaries the collective had tried to establish. As the ship accelerated, Chen couldn't help but smile. The aliens had tried to contain humanity's potential, but in doing so, they'd only guaranteed their own obsolescence. The age of careful, controlled development was over. The era of human innovation was about to begin, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the vastness of space, the quantum sensors of the Eternal Seeker detected the Prometheus breaking through another supposed barrier. Nix 427, still observing after all this time, recorded the event with a mixture of fear and fascination. "They're doing it again," they transmitted to the High Council. "They're not just learning our technology. They're transcending it. Perhaps we should have listened to those who suggested a different approach. Not containment, but collaboration." The response from the Council was immediate and predictable. Maintain observation. Continue containment protocols. Await further instructions. Nix 427's crystalline form vibrated with what might have been laughter. They knew, as more of the collective were beginning to realize, that such instructions were becoming increasingly meaningless. The humans weren't just adapting anymore. They were evolving, and they were taking the galaxy with them. The price of ignoring that first warning was about to come due, and it would be paid in change. Fundamental, irreversible change. The question was no longer whether the collective could contain humanity, but whether humanity would choose to help the collective survive its own rigid thinking. The next move belonged to the humans, and the galaxy held its breath to see what they would do next. The quantum barrier shimmered like a soap bubble stretched across the stars, invisible to conventional sensors, but impenetrable to most faster-than-light travel. It was the collective's masterpiece, a containment field encompassing Earth's entire solar system. The product of 1,000 years of theoretical work, implemented in mere months out of desperate necessity. Supreme Architect VEC 000 observed the barrier's activation from their command center on Nexus Prime, their crystalline form radiating satisfaction. Let them innovate within their cage, they transmitted to the assembled High Council. The barrier operates on principles their science cannot yet grasp. By the time they understand it, they will have learned to accept their place in the galactic order. The words had barely left their resonance chamber when the first alarm sounded. Dr. Emily Watson stood in her laboratory beneath the Antarctic ice, surrounded by holographic displays showing the quantum barrier's energy patterns. She hadn't slept in 3 days, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "It's not actually a barrier," she explained to the gathered military and scientific leadership. "It's a phase shift field. They're not trying to stop us from traveling. They're trying to prevent our ships from maintaining quantum coherence during FTL transit. Can you bypass it?" Admiral Chen asked. The former captain of the Prometheus had been promoted after first contact, now leading Earth's rapidly expanding Space Force. Watson's smile was answer enough. "They assumed we'd try to force our way through, like pushing against a wall. But what if we don't fight the phase shift? What if we use it?" She gestured to the equations floating in the air. "Their barrier works by disrupting quantum states. But we've been studying quantum entanglement for decades. What if, instead of trying to maintain coherence, we deliberately let our ships decohere, then recohere on the other side?" "Is that possible?" someone asked. "We already do it with quantum computers," Watson replied. "We just need to scale it up. Way up." Admiral Chen studied the scientist's face. "How long?" "Give me 3 months." She did it in 6 weeks. On Nexus Prime, the alert signals were becoming impossible to ignore. Human ships were appearing beyond the barrier, using principles that the collective scientists insisted were theoretically impossible. "They're surfing the phase shift," one analyst reported, their gaseous form swirling with agitation, using the barrier's own energy to catapult their ships across spacetime. It's elegant, actually. Brilliant." VEC 000 didn't want to hear about brilliance. Implement the secondary protocols. All of them. Across the galaxy, pre-positioned collective assets sprang into action. Trade routes were altered. Communication channels were blocked. Friendly species were warned away from human contact. It was a comprehensive program of isolation, designed to contain not just humanity's physical expansion, but their influence as well. For 3 days, it seemed to work. Then the trading started. The Mrith were the first to break ranks. A species of silicon-based merchants, they recognized opportunity when they saw it. Human innovations were simply too valuable to ignore. A black market emerged almost overnight with Earth goods, particularly their unique hybrid technologies, becoming the most sought-after commodities in the galaxy. The Collected's response was swift and severe. Mirth trading rights were suspended. Their ships were impounded. Examples were made. It didn't matter. Where the Mrith were pushed out, the Zen moved in. When the Zen were contained, the Vorkwin took their place. Species that had been loyal collective members for millennia now risked everything for access to human technology and ideas. "You don't understand," a captured Zen trader told their interrogators. "The humans don't just make things. They make things better. They look at our oldest technologies and see new possibilities. They're not just advancing. They're accelerating our advancement." The traders' permits were revoked, but their words echoed through the collective's consciousness. In her new laboratory aboard the space station, Terra Nova, Dr. Watson reviewed the latest data from the smuggled alien tech. Each new piece added to humanity's growing understanding of the galaxy, but more importantly, it added to their understanding of the collective itself. "They're not really united," she explained to Admiral Chen during one of their regular briefings. "The collective is more like a coral reef. Thousands of species working together, but each following patterns established millions of years ago. They're stable, but inflexible. And we're disrupting those patterns." Chen nodded. "Every time we solve one of their containment measures, we're not just breaking free. We're showing others that the patterns can be broken." Exactly. Their technology is incredible, but they use it in incredibly limited ways. They see one solution and stick to it. We see their solutions and think, "What else can this do?" The Admiral smiled. "No wonder they're afraid of us." "They should be," Watson replied, but her tone was thoughtful rather than threatening. "Not because we're dangerous, but because we're catalysts. Change is coming to the galaxy, whether they're ready or not." The breaking point came with the development of the quantum slip drive. Unlike the brute force approach of conventional FTL, or even the elegant phase shift surfing that bypassed the barrier, the slip drive simply stepped sideways through reality. The first successful test sent shockwaves through the collective, not just because it represented another containment failure, but because it demonstrated something they had thought impossible: genuine innovation in faster-than-light travel. In the emergency session that followed, Elder Zix finally said what many had been thinking: "We made a mistake. Not in discovering the humans, but in trying to contain them. Every barrier we create becomes a challenge they overcome. Every restriction becomes an inspiration for innovation." "What would you have us do?" Vex 000 demanded. "Allow them free rein across the galaxy. Watch as they upend millions of years of stable development." "Yes," Zix replied simply. "Because they're going to do it anyway. The only choice we have is whether we'll be partners in that change or casualties of it." The debate raged for days, but reality had already made the decision for them. Across the galaxy, species were beginning to follow humanity's example, not just trading for their technology, but adopting their methods, their willingness to experiment, their drive to find new solutions. The patterns that had governed galactic civilization for millions of years were unraveling, replaced by something new and unpredictable. Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of Terra Nova, watching ships arrive and depart. Human vessels with their distinctive slip drive signatures. Mrith traders bringing exotic materials and returning with human innovations. Even a few collective ships, their crews quietly defying official policy to seek partnership rather than containment. "We could push harder," her aide suggested. "The slip drive gives us a strategic advantage. We could demand recognition, force them to." "No," Chen interrupted. "That's what they're afraid we'll do. That's why they tried to contain us. We need to show them a different way." She gestured to the busy space lanes. "Look out there. Trade, cooperation, exchange of ideas. We're not going to conquer the galaxy. We're going to connect it. Transform it not through force, but through innovation and collaboration. And if they try to stop us again..." Chen smiled. Then we'll innovate around that too. It's what we do best. On the other side of the galaxy, VEC-000 received another report of containment failures and felt their crystalline form vibrate with something that might have been resignation or might have been anticipation. The humans had not just escaped their cage. They were dismantling the very concept of cages. The quarantine had failed, but perhaps some were beginning to think that failure was exactly what the galaxy needed. The collective's central archive, a massive structure of living crystal that housed the combined knowledge of 10,000 civilizations, had never seen anything like this before. Its quantum processors were struggling to keep up with the rate of change as new technological developments poured in from across the galaxy. Most concerning to its custodians, nearly all of these innovations could be traced back to human influence. Archive Master Lux 819 watched the data streams with growing unease. The rate of technological advancement has increased by 3,000% in the last standard year, they reported to the High Council. The patterns are chaotic, unpredictable. Species are combining technologies in ways our models never anticipated. In the council chamber, the holographic representatives of 1,000 worlds shifted uncomfortably. What had started as a containment problem had evolved into something far more fundamental. Humanity wasn't just advancing anymore, they were changing how advancement itself worked. And they weren't doing it alone. The Mrith Trade Federation's headquarters on Europa was a testament to the new order emerging in the galaxy. The massive structure, built into the moon's icy crust, combined collective engineering, human innovation, and Mrith aesthetic sensibilities in ways that would have been impossible just a few years ago. Dr. Emily Watson stood in the central trading floor, watching as representatives from dozens of species negotiated everything from technology transfers to cultural exchanges. The sight still amazed her, even after all this time. "Your species has catalyzed something remarkable," Senior Trader Catal observed, their crystalline form reflecting the blue-tinted ice light. "We used to trade in finished products, in perfected technologies. Now we trade in possibilities." Watson nodded. The Mrith had been among the first to truly understand what humanity offered the galaxy. Not just new technologies, but new ways of thinking about technology. New ways of thinking about everything. "The collective fears this chaos," Catal continued. "They see the old patterns breaking down and think it means the end of civilization. They cannot understand that chaos and progress are two sides of the same coin." Before Watson could respond, an alert flashed across the trading floor's holographic displays. The collective had just implemented what they called Protocol Omega, a complete severance of all diplomatic and trade relations with any species found to be collaborating with humans. Catal's crystalline form vibrated with what might have been laughter. They still think they can contain this through policy and procedure. They do not understand that they are not fighting humanity anymore. They are fighting evolution itself. Admiral Chen received the news of Protocol Omega while overseeing the launch of humanity's newest vessel, the ESS Innovation. Unlike its predecessors, the innovation wasn't just a human achievement. It was a collaborative effort between Earth's engineers and scientists from a dozen alien species. "They're getting desperate," her XO noted, reviewing the collective's announcement. "This kind of blanket prohibition, it's going to hurt them more than us." Chen agreed. The galaxy's economy had already begun restructuring itself around the new paradigm that humanity had introduced. The old controlled patterns of trade and development that the collective had maintained for millions of years were giving way to something more dynamic, more adaptable. "Launch the innovation on schedule," she ordered. "And make sure our allies know that Earth's ports remain open to all species, regardless of collective policy." As she watched the new ship power up its hybrid drive system, a combination of human slip drive technology and modified Zen power cores, she couldn't help but smile. The vessel's very existence was proof that the collective's approach had failed. You couldn't quarantine ideas. You couldn't contain innovation. On Nexus Prime, Supreme Architect VEC-000 faced the first serious challenge to their leadership in 10,000 years. The council chamber was divided, literally and figuratively, as factions formed around competing visions of the galaxy's future. The humans have corrupted our allies, destabilized our economy, and undermined the very foundations of our society, VEC-000 declared. Protocol Omega is our last chance to restore order. Order? Elder Zix's gaseous form swirled with agitation. What you call order, others are beginning to see as stagnation. Look at what has been accomplished in the few years since human contact. Medical breakthroughs, engineering advances, new forms of FTL travel. Things we had declared impossible are now commonplace. At what cost? VEC-000 demanded. Our protocols existed for a reason. Controlled development prevented wars, prevented catastrophes, prevented growth. Another council member interrupted. Prevented discovery. Prevented us from becoming more than we were. The debate raged on, but in laboratories, trading posts, and shipyards across the galaxy, the argument was already being settled. Species that had once been content to accept the collective's guidance were now pursuing their own paths, forming new alliances, and pushing the boundaries of what was possible. The quantum slip signature appeared without warning in the heart of collective space. The ESS innovation materialized near a massive construction project. What intelligence suggested was meant to be a new type of containment field, one that would supposedly be immune to human countermeasures. Instead of attacking, the ship began broadcasting on all frequencies. Not threats, not demands, but technical specifications, scientific data, research proposals. This is Captain Sarah Rodriguez of the ESS Innovation. The message began. We bring greetings and an offer of collaboration. What you're receiving is data on a new form of quantum field manipulation. We believe it could be the key to stabilizing your containment technology, not to imprison species, but to protect them, to create safe spaces for experimental research, to build something new together. In the silence that followed, Rodriguez watched her crew, human, Mrith, Zen, and others working together seamlessly, and knew they were making history. This wasn't just first contact anymore. It wasn't even about proving humanity's worth to the galaxy. This was about showing the collective a fundamental truth they had forgotten. The greatest achievements don't come from controlling development, but from embracing it. From allowing species to learn from each other, to build on each other's ideas, to reach for things that seem impossible until someone dares to try them. The Central Archive's processors registered another spike in innovation rates, but this time, Archive Master Lux 819 didn't feel unease. Instead, they felt something that their species hadn't experienced in millennia: curiosity. Perhaps, they recorded in their private log, the humans' greatest contribution isn't their technology or their methods. Perhaps it's something simpler. They reminded us how to wonder, how to dream, how to look at the impossible and ask not why, but why not. Across the galaxy, the old order was crumbling, but from its ruins, something new was emerging, something that combined the collective's knowledge with humanity's drive to explore and innovate. The breaking points weren't ending civilization, they were transforming it. And this was only the beginning. The message that broke the collective came not from Earth, not from the growing alliance of independent species, but from within. A simple transmission from a junior administrator on a minor world, but its contents shattered millions of years of established order. We have tested the human hybrid drive technology, the message read. The results confirm what many have suspected. The collective has been deliberately suppressing technological advancement. Our studies indicate that many of our fundamental limitations were artificial constraints, put in place to maintain the existing power structure. We are sharing this data with all member species. Within hours, the carefully maintained hierarchy of the collective began to crack. Admiral Chen received the news of the collective's civil war while meeting with representatives from 30 former collective species aboard the Terra Nova. The station's quantum displays showed the spread of conflict across the galaxy as ancient alliances dissolved and new ones formed. We need to choose a side, The Zen ambassador insisted, their gaseous form agitated. The traditionalists still control most of the collective's military assets. If they consolidate their power. We're not choosing sides, Chen interrupted. We're offering a third option. She gestured to the holographic display, where the ESS Innovation and its sister ships were already moving into position. Our fleet will establish humanitarian corridors, safe zones for any species that wants to opt out of this conflict. We're not here to fight the collective. We're here to show them a better way. The assembled ambassadors murmured among themselves. It was a uniquely human response, neither aggressive domination nor passive acceptance, but active transformation of the situation itself. And if they attack these safe zones? Someone asked. Chen's smile was grim. Then they'll learn why trying to contain humanity was their first mistake. On Nexus Prime, Supreme Architect Vec 000 watched their world crumble. The great chambers of the High Council, once filled with representatives from thousands of worlds, now echoed with emptiness. More species defected every day, either joining the reformist faction or declaring independence entirely. Deploy the Omega-class containment fields, they ordered, their crystalline form pulsing with desperation. Lock down all major travel routes. We can still maintain order. It's over, Vec 000. The voice belonged to Elder Zix, now leading the reformist faction. The ancient being's gaseous form filled one side of the chamber. Our entire civilization was built on control, Zix continued. Control of technology, control of development, control of thought itself. But the humans showed us something we had forgotten. True strength comes from adaptation, from innovation, from embracing change rather than fearing it. They are children. Vec 000 rage. They don't understand the dangers. No, old friend. We are the children, playing with toys we have had for too long, afraid to build new ones. The humans are teaching us to grow up. Dr. Emily Watson stood in her lab aboard the Innovation, watching as data poured in from across the galaxy. The ship was stationed at a critical junction point between collective space and the newly established free zones, its hybrid quantum sensors monitoring the increasing chaos. But Watson wasn't watching the conflict. She was watching something else. An explosion of innovation unlike anything in recorded history. As species broke freed from collective restrictions, they were rediscovering their own capacity for creativity, for advancement, for change. It's like watching a galaxy wake up, she told Captain Rodriguez. Every species that breaks away is bringing their own perspective, their own ideas. They're not just adopting our innovations, they're building on them, combining them with their own technologies in ways we never imagined. Rodriguez nodded. The collective thought they were protecting the galaxy by controlling development. Instead, they were holding back a flood of potential. And now the dam is broken, Watson finished, and nothing will ever be the same. The battle for the Central Archive became the turning point, not because of its strategic value, but because of how it was won. When traditionalist forces surrounded the massive repository of knowledge, threatening to destroy it rather than let it fall into reformist hands, humanity demonstrated exactly why they had become such a transformative force in the galaxy. The ESS Innovation and its sister ships didn't engage in direct combat. Instead, they deployed a new technology, a combination of human ingenuity, Mrith crystal engineering, and Zen energy manipulation. The ships created a quantum field that didn't just protect the archive, it made it accessible to everyone. Knowledge shouldn't be contained, Admiral Chen announced on all frequencies as the archive's contents began broadcasting across the galaxy. It should be shared, challenged, built upon. That's how we grow. That's how we evolve. The traditionalist forces, faced with the futility of trying to contain information that was now freely available to all, stood down. In the aftermath, as the dust of conflict began to settle, new patterns emerged, but unlike the rigid structures of the collective, these were dynamic, adaptable, alive with possibility. Species that had been locked into predetermined roles for millions of years began to explore new paths. Trade routes became channels not just for goods but for ideas. The galaxy was transforming from a carefully managed hierarchy into a living network of innovation and exchange. "We didn't break the collective," Admiral Chen told the assembled representatives of what was becoming known as the Galactic Network. "We just showed them what they could become if they stopped being afraid of change." Elder Zix, now speaking for the majority of former collective species, agreed. "For millions of years, we thought we were preserving civilization. Instead, we were preserving our own limitations. Humanity didn't just show us new technologies. They showed us new ways of thinking, new ways of being. And this is only the beginning," Dr. Watson added, her eyes bright with the possibilities ahead. "Every species brings its own unique perspective, its own way of seeing the universe. Together, we're not just going to explore the galaxy, we're going to transform it." In the depths of space, the quantum sensors of the Eternal Seeker detected something new. Patterns of innovation and advancement spreading across the galaxy like waves of light. Nix 427, who had first discovered humanity all those years ago, recorded one final observation. "We thought we were studying them. We thought we could contain them, control them, guide them. But they were teaching us all along. Teaching us to remember what we had forgotten. That the greatest danger isn't change, but the fear of change. That true strength lies not in maintaining order, but in embracing evolution. The age of containment is over. The age of exploration has begun." 10 years after the Great Divide, the galaxy bore little resemblance to the rigidly ordered realm the collective had maintained for millions of years. Where once stood imposed boundaries and controlled development, now flourished a vibrant tapestry of interconnected civilizations, each contributing their unique perspectives to a rapidly evolving galactic society. The Central Archive, once a closely guarded repository of carefully filtered knowledge, had become the heart of something new, the Galactic Exchange. Its crystalline spires now pulsed with constant streams of data as species across the galaxy shared discoveries, debated theories, and built upon each other's innovations. Archive Master Lux 819, who had watched the transformation from the beginning, found themselves processing more new information in a day than they once had in a century, and they wouldn't have it any other way. The inaugural meeting of the Galactic Cooperation Summit took place on neutral ground. Europa, where the Mrith had first dared to break the collective's trading restrictions. Representatives from over 5,000 species gathered in the massive chamber carved from the moon's ice, their forms as varied as their perspectives. Admiral Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's primary delegate, stood at the central podium. Age had touched her hair with silver, but her eyes still held the same determination that had helped guide humanity through first contact and beyond. 10 years ago, we faced a choice, she began. We could have used our advantages to dominate, to replace one form of control with another. Instead, we chose to innovate, to collaborate, to transform. Today, we see the results of that choice. The holographic displays surrounding the chamber showed the evidence. Breakthrough technologies developed through multi-species collaboration, new forms of FTL travel that made the galaxy more accessible than ever, medical advances that had extended lifespans across dozens of species. But our greatest achievement isn't measured in technological advancement, Chen continued. It's measured in understanding, in the recognition that diversity, of thought, of approach, of perspective, isn't just something to be tolerated. It's something to be celebrated, to be nurtured, to be combined in ways that create something greater than the sum of its parts. In her laboratory aboard the Galactic Exchange Station, Dr. Emily Watson worked alongside researchers from 20 different species. The scene would have been unimaginable in the days of the collective. A human quantum physicist collaborating with a Zen energy specialist and a Mrith crystal engineer, their different approaches combining to solve problems none of them could have tackled alone. The old guard feared chaos. She explained to a group of young students, human, alien, and hybrid. They saw our unpredictability as a threat to their order. What they didn't understand was that chaos and order aren't opposites. They're partners in a dance. Innovation happens at the boundary between them. She gestured to their current project, a new form of quantum communication that combined human theoretical frameworks with Zen energy manipulation and Rith crystalline technology. This wasn't created by following established patterns. It was created by questioning them, by being willing to fail, to try new approaches, to see possibilities where others saw only limitations. On what had once been Nexus Prime, the former heart of the collective, Supreme Architect Vec 000 stood in their private chamber, watching the sunset through a window made of Earth-designed smart crystal. The irony didn't escape them. You were right, they transmitted to Elder Zix, who had become one of the leading voices in the new galactic order. We thought we were preserving civilization. Instead, we were holding it back. It wasn't just about being right or wrong, Zix replied, their gaseous form shifting thoughtfully. It was about being willing to change. The humans didn't just show us new technologies. They showed us new possibilities. They showed us what we could become if we stopped fearing change and started embracing it. And now, Vec 000 asked, now we're all becoming something new, something better, not because we're being forced to, but because we're choosing to. Because we've remembered how to dream. The ESS Innovation, now a living legend, still patrolled the spaces between worlds. But its mission had changed. Instead of maintaining safe zones during conflict, it served as a mobile research platform, a diplomatic vessel, and a symbol of what could be achieved through cooperation. Captain Sarah Rodriguez, daughter of the ship's first tactical officer, stood on the bridge watching her mixed-species crew at work. The ship itself was a testament to galactic cooperation. Its quantum slip drive had evolved through human Zen collaboration, its hull incorporated Rith crystal technology, and its sensors used principles developed by a dozen different species. We're picking up something unusual, her science officer reported. A crystalline being using human-designed interfaces. It appears to be a new form of space-time distortion. Unknown origin. Unknown properties. Rodriguez smiled. Once, such a discovery would have been carefully controlled, studied for centuries before being deemed safe for general knowledge. Now it would be broadcast to the Galactic Exchange, where thousands of species would bring their perspectives to understanding it. Send out the alert, she ordered. Let's see what we can learn together. In the great chamber of the Galactic Exchange, Archive Master Lux 819 recorded their observations of the 10th anniversary of the Great Divide. The quantifiable changes were staggering. Technological advancement rates had increased by orders of magnitude. Interspecies cooperation had reached unprecedented levels, and the general quality of life across the galaxy had improved dramatically. But it was the unquantifiable changes that truly mattered. The way species that had once been locked into rigid roles now freely explored new possibilities. The way ancient rivals now collaborated on groundbreaking research. The way the galaxy had transformed from a carefully managed museum into a living laboratory of innovation and discovery. The humans, they noted, didn't just change our technology or our society. They changed our understanding of what's possible. They showed us that the greatest discoveries don't come from following established patterns, but from daring to break them. From being willing to question, to explore, to fail, and to try again. They taught us that true civilization isn't about maintaining order, it's about maintaining balance. Balance between chaos and order, between innovation and stability, between the wisdom of experience and the daring of youth. But perhaps their greatest lesson was the simplest, that the universe is not something to be controlled, but something to be explored, not something to be feared, but something to be embraced, and that the greatest adventures still lie ahead. As if to emphasize this point, the exchange's quantum alerts lit up with news of the innovation's latest discovery. Across the galaxy, thousands of species turned their attention to this new mystery, each bringing their unique perspective, each ready to contribute to understanding it. The age of containment was over. The age of exploration had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same. In the vast darkness between the stars, the quantum sensors of the eternal seeker still maintained their vigil. But now they watched not with fear or suspicion, but with wonder and anticipation. For in the end, humanity's greatest gift to the galaxy hadn't been their technology or their innovations. It had been hope. Hope for what they could all become together.